Welcome in to Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we've got another training camp preview episode of Duval Daily. We are looking at the Jaguars wide receiver group, perhaps the most contentious position for Jaguars fans, analysts, media, everybody does not know what to expect from the Jaguars wide receivers in 2022. Quick reminder, subscribe on YouTube, really helps the channel out. We really appreciate all y'all's support. Follow myself at Jordan DeLugo on Twitter, Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag. Like I said, today we are previewing the Jaguars wide receiver room heading into 2022 Jacksonville Jaguars training camp. Jaguars wide receiver room was among the worst in football last year. We're going to get into the why of that. But this year, they've got big expectations with head coach Doug Peterson coming in, a new offensive system, new wide receivers, coaching Chris Jackson, Trevor Lawrence going into his second year. There's a lot on the line for these wide receivers, and how they perform is going to greatly impact how this offense goes and how this season goes for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You've got Christian Kirk, who the Jags brought in on a 4-year deal worth a total of $72 million this offseason. They've got a 2-year out to keep them protected, but this was a deal that at the time a lot of people criticized. Not a lot of teams, or maybe no teams out there, were willing to even get into the ballpark of $18 million per year for Christian Kirk. I personally had him at about $13 million per year was my guess for what he would get. The Jaguars marched to the beat of their own drum. They placed a value on him. They went and signed him at that value, offered him a lot more than anyone else was going to. But just a couple months later, that deal is looking a lot better. He's now in the teens in terms of how he's paid compared to wide receivers around the league. So that deal, as it matures, is going to continue to look better and better. That is the way it works in free agency, in the NFL contracts. You know, month after month, year after year, every contract starts to look a lot better. You've got Marvin Jones entering his second year with the team. His final year on his contract that he signed last offseason was just a 2-year deal. He's an 11-year veteran, now 32 years old. You've got Zay Jones, who signed with the team this offseason, a 5-year vet. Signed with the Jags, 3 years, $24 million, about $8 million per. He's now with his third team at the age of 27. Former second-round pick of the Buffalo Bills. Leviska Chanel, he's entering his third year with the Jaguars, another former second-round pick back in 2020 for the Jags. He's got a lot to prove after having an uncharacteristically inconsistent season in 2021. Jamal Agnew is entering his second year with the team. He's a special teams dynamo turned offensive weapon extraordinaire for the Jaguars in 2021 before he suffered the hip injury, which he is still recovering from, but looks damn good moving out there on the football field. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Laquan Treadwell had a heck of a summer last year after kind of bouncing around. Kind of looked like he might be out of the league, but a former first-round pick found his footing in Jacksonville a little bit. Did not quite make the 53-man roster. Did stick around on the practice squad, and with injuries piling up for the Jaguars, he got called up and did some really nice things for the Jags. At times, he was Trevor Lawrence's most consistent receiver down the stretch when you had injuries taking hold. He did enough that Trent Baalke and this new coaching staff wanted him back for another year on a 1-year deal. Then you've got Kevin Austin, a priority undrafted free agent who broke out at Notre Dame last year. Some more undrafted free agents and young players with Lawan Winningham, Ryan McDaniel. Tim Jones and Jeff Cotton have both been in Jacksonville. They were here last summer. And then Marvin Hall comes over, another speedy, quick receiver who has a chance to compete for a roster spot, maybe a practice squad spot. When you look at this group and the guys that were here last year, outside of Marvin Jones, they simply were not good enough. Why? I think a lot of it you can look at dysfunction on offense. It was readily apparent. Urban Meyer, it was clear as day that he was not prepared to lead an NFL team from pretty much every different angle you look at. From being a professional, from being prepared, from having respect for your coaching staff, to having respect for your players. to respecting people inside the organization, fostering a culture of collaboration. It wasn't there for Urban Meyer last year. He was not ready to be an NFL coach. He convinced himself that he was, and clearly that blew up in his face. It blew up in Shad Khan's face. Urban Meyer trying to edit Darrell Bevell's offense and imprint on the receivers. It was horrible. The route concepts, they didn't make sense. It was a static offense, no movement, receivers running into each other and dropping passes. It was ugly. They dropped passes at an incredibly high rate last year. It was really ugly. And then you also look at, they lost DJ Chark early in the season. They lost Travis Etienne before the season. Those were going to be two of your leading producers on offense, two of the pieces on offense that you really built around. And they had to try to adjust on the fly without those two focal points, and it just didn't work out with a rookie quarterback, with a coaching staff that leadership from the top down was just horrendous. It didn't work out. So you bring in Christian Kirk on a big deal. Looks pretty damn good now when you look around the league at these other wide receiver contracts. You also added Zay Jones. Kirk, he's going to move around the formation. He'll line up out wide. He'll line up in the slot. I've seen him even lined up in the backfield. He's going to do a lot of different things for you. He caught over 75% of his passes, of his targets in 2021. Incredibly efficient. He's able to stretch the field horizontally and vertically. He can be a seam stretcher. He can space you out on the crossers, the out routes, the in route. I mean, this is a guy that's a great route runner, very solid hands, very quick, very fast, very professional. I think Christian Kirk is going to live up to that deal. Zay Jones is a guy that does the little things. He catches the easy passes, runs the right routes. He blocks really well. He's big, strong, fast, athletic. There's a lot of reasons to like Zay Jones as potentially your fourth, fifth target in this offense when you're also looking at Evan Ingram being a target, Travis Etienne being a target, Dan Arnold being a target. Jones will do the little things that helps an offense win games and move the football, even when he's not catching passes. I think having Doug Peterson and Press Taylor calling up and designing this offense, Jim Bob Cooter designing that passing game, the passing game coordinator, and Chris Jackson coaching them up on the finer points of route running and catching the football. I believe the coaching and scheming is going to greatly improve the play of the guys that were here last year, and it's going to help the new guys, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones. Nothing at all against Sanjay Lal. I don't know how any of the coaches that were on staff last year got through last season under Urban Meyer, but with the current coaching staff actually being on the same page, not even just being better coaches, but being on the same page under the leadership of Doug Peterson, that is going to matter. You've also got an offense that's, based on West Coast principles originally. It will have lots of pre-snap movement, lots of play action. It'll help the quarterback find the right read. Running the play action will help the quarterback and the wide receivers have that little one-step advantage over defensive backs and defenders who just have that little moment of hesitation when the fake happens. Bunch formations with stacks, with trips, guys close to the line of scrimmage, that's going to help as well. Receivers lined up all over the field. You're going to have options for if Trevor sees man coverage, we're going to switch to this. If it's zone coverage, this is what we're going to run. You didn't have that last year. You didn't have man beaters. You didn't have zone beaters. Trevor's going to be better too. With Doug Peterson coaching him up, with Mike McCoy coaching him up, Press Taylor, Jim Bob Cooter, this is a group that is in sync, and they're going to be throughout this 2022 season, I believe. I think you're going to see better protection, which is going to help Trevor find the receivers. All these different things are going to allow the receivers that were in Jacksonville last year to perform at a higher level, in my opinion. When you look at your top six right now, regardless of scheme and situation, I think Kirk gives you an explosive receiver with very good hands and smarts. Marvin Jones, again, he is going to make above the rim catches, some acrobatic catches. His route running physicality and body control and ball skills at the catch point, those make him still a really quality possession receiver despite being up there in age. Zay Jones, again, going to be steady for you. He's going to do the little things that help an offense move the ball, even when he's not catching passes. I expect Leviska to have a massive bounce back. He never had a problem with catching the football until 2021. He's more focused on speed and quickness this offseason than strength. He was in the weight room probably a little bit too much last offseason. Maybe had some bad advice in his ear, but he's refocused on regaining that quickness and speed that he showed at Colorado and during his rookie year when he scored 5 touchdowns, caught a lot of passes for that Jaguars offense in 2020. He's hired a track coach that he's working with to get that speed back, and he looks good. Jamal Agnew, he became a stud offensive weapon last year, lining up in the backfield, lining up out wide, lining up in the slot, getting the ball in a variety of different ways. He's coming off the hip, but as you may have seen the videos that I've been able to capture out at minicamp, OTAs, etc., he looks good. He's cutting hard. He's running fast, catching passes, returning kicks. He looks like he's ready to go. And then you've got Laquan Treadwell. He is another big body that will block the crap out of you, blow your ass off the line, and then produce on special teams as well. That's a glue guy. That is a glue piece on a team. Then you've got those exciting young players. Kevin Austin, a lot of people are fired up about. He was a vertical threat at Notre Dame. I think he's been pretty inconsistent to this point, but he has a chance to really catch on in training camp. Tim Jones, Jeff Cotton, and Lawan Winningham have all looked impressive, and Marvin Hall has that speedy, quick, kind of slot receiver skill set, special teams skill set as well. All these guys are going to have a chance to compete during training camp. I've mentioned it already, but I expect this group to perform at a much higher level than they did in 2021. They're more talented, adding Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. They've got better coaching, not only just from a schematic, like coaching X's and O's, the nuts and bolts of what it takes to be a good route runner, what it takes to be good at catching the passes, but a coaching situation that is in sync. It is coherent. It makes sense. And they've got a better scheme. Bottom line, Doug Peterson's scheme, it is proven to work when you look at all the different variables that he has in his offense, from pre-snap movement to quick strike offense, using screens, using slants, using crossers, and then getting into the play action game, getting into the RPO game, getting into read options. He's going to have a lot of different problems for defenses to solve, and I think it's going to help this wide receiver group perform much better and be really an asset for Trevor Lawrence versus last year being perhaps the worst wide receiver group in football. I'm giving this group a B- as their grade right now. I do think it lacks superstar talent. If Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones are your top 2 guys, you're clearly lacking in terms of not having, whoever you want to say, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin, who just got paid. They don't have one of those guys, but Christian Kirk is a step below that. I think Marvin Jones is right there as well. Christian Kirk is more of the spread you out, use his speed, explosiveness, and efficiency catching the football, whereas Marvin Jones is more of the possession guy. Zay Jones is a little bit of everything. Leviska Chanel, he's that power slot. He's a guy that you can get the ball in a lot of different ways. Him and Jamal Agnew you can use in a lot of the same ways, but they're going to do it differently. Leviska is going to use his power and quickness. Jamal Agnew is going to use his speed, elusiveness, and acceleration and quickness as well. But they can do a lot of the same things in terms of getting carries out of the backfield, catching screens, playing outside, playing inside, doing a lot of different things for your offense. And I think Zay Jones and Laquan Treadwell, they are both glue guys. They're both going to just knock the crap out of defensive backs in the run game. And you'd be remiss not to mention Evan Ingram and Dan Arnold as receivers. they're not going to be listed as wide receivers, but they're going to have impacts as receivers as well. And so is Travis Etienne. So I think this group, just the wide receivers, it's a B-. I give it a floor of a C. And that's if, maybe one of these guys goes down, two of them go down. You're not looking like a great roster, or a great receiving group. But any team around the league, if you lose two receivers, you're not going to be looking how you want to look. The ceiling, I've got a B+. I still think they lack that true number one, but this B+ can be achieved if Christian Kirk continues to be efficient, but in a bigger role here in Jacksonville, and if Leviska Chanel is able to improve on his 2021 season, which I absolutely believe he will, and if Jamal Agnew comes back fully healthy, and of course Marvin Jones, he does not look like he's lost a step at all. I think he's really still in a good position to contribute at a high level. So yeah, that is our Jaguars 2022 training camp preview for the wide receivers, a group that has a lot of expectations this year. It's much more talented than it was. It's in a better situation from head coaching to position level coaching, all the way through. That is going to do it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Duval, hit me up on Twitter at Jordan DeLugo. Follow Generation Jaguar at Generation Jag. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, and check genjag.com for all the latest Jaguars news, analysis, and Duval gear.